Hello guys, David here. I'm just doing a London recap for today. It was a bank holiday, sort of pretty much everywhere in Europe today. So it was always less likely there's going to be any setups. Yeah, all you can do is with bank holidays either recognize the volume's going to be lower, there's going to be a lower probability of setup presenting, and take the day off, work on other things, do whatever you want to do, or just show up as though it's on the other day and execute a setup if it presents. It's up to you how you want to approach it. Either way sort of makes sense in my opinion. We'll start on EU on the daily. So as we know, daily's bullish. This was the swing leg. This is the swing pullback. As you can see, supply is being respected currently. Next sort of demand where we could potentially look for a continuation of the bullish daily trend is at these wicks here. So we may come down here and then continue the bullish trend. We swept this internal low here and saw a bit of a pullback from it. Was possible we would see a slightly deeper pullback maybe up here before continuing lower. Hadn't quite mitigated this range, so for that reason, usually even if price misses sort of the refined pivots, usually it at least mitigates the range. So it wouldn't have been a massive surprise if we saw sort of a bullish move in the M15 to sort of mitigate this range before continuing lower. But understanding that, yeah, internal is bearish on supplies and controls. So that was the daily. It's always hard to give sort of a clear sort of bias in the daily, when you're trading the M15, M1, M5, whatever. The daily is quite a long way above that, so it's not always that relevant, but it is always good to know where you are relative to it. So on Friday we had a chalk here on the 4 hour. We mitigated this supply here, pushed down and swept this low. So again, we've had a strong liquidation on the 4 hour. Usually whenever we do get a swing pullback, then it usually is precipitated by a liquidation. So we've had strong liquidation, so entirely possible that that's the first sign of the pullback continuing and that we will push higher like this here. However, no bullish shock, no supply failure yet to indicate that is what is happening. Instead, we pull back into this supply here. It's not the best supply. It didn't cause price to close below the low, but it is still valid supply as it did take out the low. So entirely possible that we could have just mitigated this and continued lower. So on the 4 hour, aware that we may see a pullback following the liquidation, but that haven't really had any shift in structure or in terms of supply and demand to indicate that that is imminent. So yeah, sort of based on the 4 hour, overall sort of favourite sells potentially target this low. So on the M15 then, take it back to where we were at the start of session. So coming into London, you can see M15 was bearish. This was the most recent swing break structure. So this was the bearish leg and this was the pullback. So obviously with swing being bearish, what we expect is price to mitigate supply in the premium and then continue lower and run the week low. Now in terms of supply and demand in the range, that was mitigated by that candle. That was mitigated by this candle. So this was the sort of extreme unmitigated supply within the range. It was in the premium as well. You can see that is the EQ of the range. So it made sense that this was the POI that was going to follow through. It had a couple of failed reactions to it where you can see we pushed into it, pulled back, demand held, and we pushed higher. So that was a valid IBOS. Then you can see we had another valid IBOS as well. So internal was bullish. We knew that we had sweep liquidity in the 4 hour, so it wasn't completely beyond the realms possibility that these ranges could hold and that we could eventually switch bullish and sort of the 4 hour take precedence over the M15. But yeah, equally could have just mitigated this supply or swept that liquidity and continued lower. So it was just a matter of sort of staying neutral and understanding sort of what can happen, the probabilities of each, and sort of then sort of having your criteria of how you're going to sort of approach that if you want to enter a trade. So if we play it on, as we push up, we've taken this high now. So again, at this point, I'm thinking we've had a liquidation. We're in 4 hour supply. Yeah, it is potential that the M15 bearish trend could continue at any time. So yeah, not really interested in sells at this point. Wanted to sort of see more development. You know, ideally wanted to see the M15 PBL fill, which is that yellow box. And then could have potentially looked for a buy from this demand at extreme, because you know we could have just had a complex pullback into here and continued higher. But again, understand that that is lower probability because you're buying in the premium of the M15 swing range and against 4 hour supply. But then knowing that we've had the 4 hour sweep of the low, it is possible that these ranges will hold. So again, understand all probabilities, everything that could happen, and sort of deciding how you want to approach it, you know, which is usually dependent on your trading plan and how aggressive you want to be. So we pull back into the PBL. We get the PBL feel on the bearish chalk. So at this point, not ideal that this range hasn't failed, but it is still valid to look for sells, as M15 is bearish. We've had a strong liquidation of PBL failing a bearish M15 chalk. So at this point, I was waiting to see if price was going to pull back in here and then look for sells. And then obviously we came into this demand, so it was possible that could continue higher in line with the internal trend. So there was no entry on the M1 here. Let's see. The chalk line was all the way up here, so unless we sort of got a sweep of these equal lows, there's going to be no entry model. And as you can see, yeah, price eventually tanked. Unfortunately, we didn't quite mitigate the supply that I wanted to trade from, which was here. You can see we just missed it with the wick, so no potential confirmation entry there, unfortunately. Now the internal range has failed. No close below yet, so technically not an IBOS, but we also have a flip. So this was the sort of next supply zone that I was looking for potential entry from. Play it on. See, we sold off quite aggressively. And yeah, once you got the bearish IBOS, sells were even higher probability. But was looking for price to maybe pull back in here to look for an entry. But as you can see, we just pulled back into these wicks. So yeah, no entries there. Pretty good lesson and sort of, you know, understanding all eventualities, sort of understanding all the different time frames, multi-time frame analysis, etc. Unfortunately, the M15 POIs just didn't play ball today. But yeah, coming into New York, obviously with this supply here, not the best POI as price hasn't closed below. I don't think it has closed, so it's, yeah, look for sells from there or potentially come back up here as well. So yeah, M15 swinging a turn bearish, sells are high probability coming in New York. Yeah, so that was AU, and then on AU, so on the daily, obviously had sweep of the high here, swinging a turn bearish. This is the most recent IBOS. Ultimately expecting this swing low to get run as it's weak as it failed to take out this high. Following the bearish IBOS, can expect a pullback. We've also mitigated this very clear demand, which more than likely will be a catalyst for a pullback, at least up to this little range here, before potentially continuing lower. So yeah, sort of based on the daily, favoured buys to sort of play this internal pullback from the high probability daily demand. The 4 hour then. Last week I was pretty reluctant to look for buys as price was sort of contained within the supply. We had no bullish 4 hour chalk running. So yeah, it was valid. Just ideally want to see the 4 hour supply fail. So you can see we pull back into supply, tried to push down, failed to put in a new high, and then continued higher. We now also have the bullish 4 hour chalk. So at this point, there's a decent probability that we're going to see the 4 hour swing pullback. So yeah, buys in the M15 make a lot of sense. We may see a sort of a pullback into this demand before continuing higher, but yeah, coming into session this morning, we'd had the failed reaction to the supply. So at that point, I was sort of happy to look for buys, as obviously we know that after this huge sell-off, it's very likely that we're going to see a pullback to sort of the premium eventually. Yeah, so that is the 4 hour and then the M15. So M15 had switched bullish just before session when we got the close above. That's a big structure. This was a valid IBOS, so I had this green box as my sort of most recent demand range. Obviously extreme is always best. So just took that candle there, covered those sell to buy wicks that got engulfed. So yeah, swinging eternal bullish. We know that we've had the failed reaction to the 4-hour supply, so yeah, buys were favourable. Ideally want to see price pull back in here and then continue higher. Play it on. Yeah, pulling back in. Just waiting for the alert to go off at this point. Alert goes off, so now we can drop down to the M1 and see if there's an entry. So obviously the M15 POI had no lid, so wanted to see a strong liquidation in the entry model. So here we have pretty clean equal lows. You can see one again with equal lows, equal highs. You want to see sort of a double top, double bottom formation. Those of you who ever traded candlestick formations will know all about them. So there we are. We had the first low, and then here we had the second low, and then as a bonus point, this low sort of took out this sort of minor internal high. So you know, you could count that as an eye chalk. So that's it's obviously not a strong liquidation, but it's, you know, it's more significant than if it didn't take out that high. So I just want to see this liquidation happen. M15 POI get mitigated, and then potentially look for the other components of the entry model. So we push down, liquidate the low. So now obviously want to see a PBL fail. Now this is where PBL can sort of be slightly subjective. You can sort of say you want to take that there, but also I'm sort of also aware of the range. So, you know, you could view that there as those two candles as a supply range, and as you can see, the next candle mitigated it and pushed lower. So yeah, the PBL held in that instance. So yeah, if you want to see a strong liquidation, which is advisable given the lack of inducement in the M15, then you want to see fresh liquidity build. So the PBL held there at the yellow box, which is the main reason why you wouldn't have considered that entry. And you can see we got the fake chalk, and then this was another strong liquidation, but the other components of the entry model didn't present. So yeah, play it on. Yeah, there was no, got the chalk, etc. But yeah, there was no real potential entry model for me there, unfortunately. And then if we jump back out to the M15, yeah, you can see the swing and internal trends played out beautifully. Yeah, so the expectation obviously is that this low will get run coming in New York. Yeah, very clean price action this morning. Just unfortunately there's no clean entry model get involved. So that is it. As I said, the bank holiday in most of Europe this morning, so it was always likely to be sort of a less active session. But yeah, there was some pretty clean M15 price action on EU, but it was just pretty tricky to get involved because none of the POIs were respected. But it is what it is. You can't win every day. Yeah, if you have any questions around about any of this, guys, just hit me up in one of the question channels in Discord, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks, guys. Goodbye.